It is 6 o'clock. Looks like we have a quorum here. Ken, I'll let you call the meeting to order, and then I'll do roll call if you like.
Okay, I am calling this meeting to order. I got to get back to my screen. There we go. Go ahead and call the roll, Aaron.
Ken Anderson,
Here.
Larry Hafner,
Here.
Franklin Hahn,
Here.
Ken Visker.
Here.
And I guess for the rest of the board's information, Brian Van Gorp resigned some weeks ago, so you four now constitute the entirety of the Board of Adjustment until the county board appoints a new member.
Okay, apparently there was an inadvertent omission in terms of our agenda, and we need to correct that before we move forward. Aaron, you want to talk about that?
Sure. So if you will recall, last month we sent out agendas to you all that had two action items on them. One being the approval of the minutes, so a standard one, and the second being to select a Board of Adjustment member to represent the Board of Adjustment regarding the Schutz Quarry appeal. The agendas that were sent out in your packets, just to you members, did not have that Schutz Quarry action item on them. The agendas that we post on the website did, but we also need to have the board address that this evening and select a member so that the attorney representing the county can move forward with that process.
So basically, we just need to amend the agenda to include that item. Is that correct?
Correct. So the amended agenda would be two hearings: the Herman and Melanie Lamb hearing, the Edward and Jacqueline Gosling hearing, and then the dealing with the Schutz Quarry representative, and then finally the minutes from our prior meeting.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So move.
Second?
I'll second it. This is Larry.
Okay. Any discussion? The question, we are amending the agenda to include the Schutz Quarry discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And I'll remind you all that because we're remote, I have to roll call each one. So I know there's only four of you. It seems silly, but I'll go through the. Ken Anderson.
Aye.
Ken Visker.
Aye.
Larry Hafner.
Aye.
And Franklin Hahn.
Aye.
Motion carried. So we have an adjusted agenda. Okay, moving forward, you want to read the public notice regarding the first hearing with Herman and Melanie Long. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Please take notice that an application was received from Herman and Melanie Lam of Money Creek Township requesting a variance of setback requirements to reduce the side yard setback in an agricultural district in order to place an accessory structure. A hearing on this application will be held at 6 p.m. on Thursday, November 19th. Due to the health pandemic, the hearing will be held in a hybrid format with both in-person and virtual options pursuant to Minnesota statutes. The in-person option will take place in the commissioner's room in the courthouse. If you're joining us on a computer, you can see that room, there's a camera on there. So that's what that room is you're looking at. The virtual option utilizes the Zoom platform. All persons having an interest in the matter will be given the opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying. Those comments needed to be received by the zoning office prior to November 10th. Comments in regard to the petitions received by that date will be part of the public record and were made available to the board prior to the meeting. And this was advertised on November 4th.
Okay, would the applicants like to make any comments?
Everything seems to be presented in what we asked for and so forth. So I'd say move forward.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Has anybody else been to the property? Okay.
Ken Visker, you've been to the property?
I have.
Okay.
Any comments or questions from the public?
No comments were received. We have a commissioner, not member of the board, on the line now, but we don't have any other members of the public joining the call or in the in-person room.
Any additional questions from the board for the applicants? I almost messed up your name again. There being none, we will close the public hearing portion and go to the board for general discussion. Any general discussion from the board? Having been there, and I think others have had contact with alums, in order to move this forward, I'm not guessing that there's going to be objection. Does anybody on the board have objection to this variance? There being none, can we wrap up all of the findings and approve them all at once, as opposed to the detail of going through each one at once, Aaron?
I think if the members or a majority of the members were willing to sign on to the staff analysis for each applicable finding, you could do that in perhaps one motion.
I'm open to that motion.
This is Larry. I would make that motion.
There's a second.
This is Ken Anderson. I'll second that.
So we have a motion before us and seconded to essentially approve the findings as presented by the zoning office.
Can I make a point, though, that our next hearing cannot be started until 6:30.
Okay.
It was advertised for 6:30, so we might be freeing up some time where we'll just be, gazing into one another's eyes here over Zoom.
I'm gonna go get a beer.
So perhaps we, in consideration of that, perhaps we might address them each individually. But I'll leave that to the board.
Aaron, if we have the extra time, we could deal with that Schultz quarry in the meantime.
We certainly could do that, yes.
Hey, this is Larry. We maybe should accept the findings, but review any special conditions. Would be, be nice to deal with that separately.
Well, right now we have a motion and a second on the floor to essentially accept the findings. Can we deal with that and then move on if we need to do more? Any discussion about that?
Does the findings include, does the finding include special conditions?
No.
I think all we're doing is approving the findings, and then we move on to approval, and that may, approval of the variance, and that may include special conditions.
Sounds good to me.
That work for you? So the question then is, all in favor? Signify by saying aye.
Well, I'll do a roll call vote. I'm going to quickly clarify the motion. So the motion here is for the board to adopt the staff analysis findings. And that motion's been seconded, and we're to the roll call vote point. I will clarify two things quickly before we move to there. And two of the proposed findings, it's laid out giving the board the option to find something. And are we correct to assume that the board does indeed find what we present as the board may find? So that the board finds that the contour and small area of the property are unique, and that the initial layout was affected by those unique factors, for finding number 3. And then the board finds that requiring the installation of an additional driveway to lessen the needed variance is unreasonable. Is that my understanding correct? Okay.
Would agree with that.
Yep.
Larry?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call vote. Ken Anderson.
Aye.
Larry Hafner.
Aye.
Franklin Hahn.
Aye.
And Ken Visker.
Aye.
Okay.
So I'm entertaining now a motion to approve or deny the requested variance, and if there are conditions, we can include that in the motion.
Staff is not recommending any conditions. It may be useful to have a discussion on the distance of variance to grant. I believe your packets recommend a distance of 12 feet, meaning the building could be placed at 38 feet from the property line. Maybe I'd ask Herman to weigh in. Would that be sufficient? That might be a foot or two beyond what you need, but we'd rather have a little extra than have not enough.
It is generous or beyond what we need, but that is fine. We're going to stay above the retaining wall that is there now.
Retaining wall has already been built, so the footprint of the building is already predetermined. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And so the variance takes into account that retaining wall. Right?
Yeah.
Aaron, yes. Okay. So what's the question at this point, Aaron?
Well, there's no question. I guess there's no conditions that staff recommends that the board consider. And I guess at this point, you could seek a motion. There's some proposed language in your packets being a motion to grant a variance of 12 feet to place an accessory building 38 feet from a property line.
Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll
I
make
make
that.
that motion.
I'll second that motion.
So, Larry, I heard you speak first, so you can take credit for the motion.
All right.
And Kenneth, I will give you the second. Fair enough?
Good enough. It don't matter.
Any further discussion? The question then, all in favor of granting this variance?
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry Hafner,
Aye.
Franklin Hahn,
Aye.
and Ken Visker.
Aye.
Okay.
So we can now move on to the second application.
Well, we cannot start that hearing until 6:30.
Oh, that's right.
You could, however, choose to handle the Schitt's Quarry or the minutes at any time during your meeting.
We can do the minutes at the end. They're fairly quick. Any objection to doing the Schitt's Quarry at this point?
No, I think we should go ahead.
Okay.
So some background on this for the board members. There's Franklin, you weren't on the board when this matter initially came before. There was an appeal of a zoning decision. Those appeals by ordinance go to the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment heard that appeal and voted to uphold the decision of the zoning office. That decision was then appealed to district court, and that court has ordered that the matter go to a mediation. The attorney representing the county has instructed that the county board select a representative, which has occurred already, and then the Board of Adjustment also select a representative to participate in the mediation.
Just from my perspective, listening to this, seeing this, the second hearing, there were only 3 of the current board were members of that hearing that could be applied. And I voted with the minority, so I believe it should be either Kenny Visker or Larry Hefner that represents the board.
No, I make a motion to select Ken Anderson.
We have a motion on the floor to appoint Ken Anderson. Is there a second?
Well, I'm confused. Ken Anderson just said that he thought it should be somebody else.
I did not vote with the majority, so
You had a
We make
reason.
decision as a board, Larry. One board member does not run the board. We make a decision as a board, any board that I've been on.
But we don't have a second on this motion. Until we have a second, we
right.
can't move forward. There being no second, motion fails.
Well, like I said, I'm confused. I heard Ken Anderson suggest there was a reason that he shouldn't be on it, and then somebody made a motion that he should. I would like to hear
It's the same person, Larry.
Ken explain what your concern was.
Well, I did not vote with the majority of the board at that hearing, either of those hearings when I was involved.
Okay,
That's the only reason I see it.
so you would,
Otherwise, I'll definitely would do it if you guys appoint me, but, and try to be as fair as I can with whatever there is. But I did not personally agree with the majority of the board.
that would be contrary to your original vote.
Yes.
Okay.
It would seem logical that you'd have somebody supporting the majority position of that the board had at the time in a mediation, from my perspective.
So from what I'm hearing is I don't have anything to say because I wasn't on the board. Is that what you're telling me
No,
at that time?
So I don't know why you would think that.
I guess the biggest thing, Franklin, is you haven't been involved to have the background of what all was involved.
Well, I know what's going on. I don't live out in the woods by myself. I know what goes on in the county.
I'm guessing, I don't know if we can, well, let me just say it. I'm guessing we pretty much need somebody that supports the county's position versus somebody that didn't. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. And that, unfortunately, that only leaves you and me.
Well, I think that would be up your alley, Ken. I mean, I guess you're more of a salesman than I am.
I'm not trying to sell anything, and
Well, but
unfortunately,
I mean, you're just more comfortable with public speaking.
well, given some health problems, I would prefer that you do this, Larry. I can't guarantee that I'm going to be in a position to be where I need to be. I got some issues.
All right.
I've had them for years, but this is a health issue that I'm dealing with, and it strikes me that you would be a better choice.
Okay. Well, and Aaron will get support from our attorney.
well, there's an attorney who's handling this, so the mediation would be, as I understand it, I guess a discussion that would include myself, Attorney Squires, a member of the county board, and a member of the Board of Adjustment, and then any resolution that's reached through that mediation would ultimately need to come back to the county board to be ratified, I guess, or accepted. So it might not be as it may not be as a demanding task as you're envisioning it to be, perhaps.
Okay. Where and when is this taking place?
Well, it hasn't been scheduled yet. I guess once representatives are selected, we'll look at availability. Is my understanding it would take place in a format similar to this.
Oh, you think even online, huh?
Correct, yes.
Ooh.
Larry, would it help if I served as your alternate?
That would be good. We could discuss it. That would be helpful. Let's go with that.
So to move this on, I would nominate Larry Hafner to represent the Board of Adjustment at the mediation hearing with myself as an alternate representative.
I like that. I agree with that. Do we need a motion on that?
I just made it.
Oh.
We need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor with a second to nominate Larry Hafner as the Board of Adjustment representative in the mediation hearing with the Schutz Quarry, with me serving as an alternate, Ken Visger serving as an alternate. Any further discussion? There being none, we need a roll call.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry Hafner,
Aye.
Franklin Hahn,
Nay.
Ken Visker.
Aye.
Okay, 6:21, you may be able to work through the minutes in 9 minutes, perhaps?
I think we can. Has
I
everyone had a
didn't-
chance?
I didn't get a copy of the minutes in my packet, so you just eliminate me when you make the motion to accept the minutes.
Sure, and our apologies for that, Franklin.
Minutes came in that earlier hearing stuff. That's the only one I got also.
I didn't get one in there either.
Larry, have you had a chance to review the minutes?
Yeah, I've looked at them somewhat. I don't see anything jumps out at me. I'll
Make a motion, we accept them.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? There being none, roll call.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry Hafner,
Aye.
and I'll note that Franklin will abstain. Ken Visker,
Aye.
motion passes. Okay, we have 8 minutes until the next hearing start, and the applicant is not online yet, so if anyone can take a 5-minute break, now would be the time.
The bathroom break, huh?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Ken, for the record, thank you for your integrity and honesty about this Schutz thing. That's commendable.
I just felt I had to be honest about where I was. And as soon as I saw that on the agenda, that's the way I felt.
Yeah. No, that's commendable, and I appreciate that. Thank
I
you.
agree. Get that out front, and I mean, everybody knows where everybody's at then.
I'm going to mute myself and place a call to the next applicant to be sure that they'll be joining us promptly. Good evening. Ted and Jacqueline, are you able, you've joined us?
I just joined us. Jacqueline's on her way. I could see you guys just tried to call. We didn't get to the phone in time. She's on her way upstairs to be in the meeting in just a second. Can you guys hear me?
Perfect. We'll get started in a couple minutes after she can join us.
Okay. Let me see if my video is there. Are you guys able to see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. She'll be right here.
Okay, so, oh, there I am. Wish I knew how to work this. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Am I still on?
You're on now. Yes. Ken.
Okay. I'm technology challenged here.
All right, we're both here.
Okay. Let's see if we can bring everyone back. We've been on about a 5-minute break, but as soon as everyone returns to their computers here, we can get going. Larry, I saw you're back. Franklin, you're still with us?
Yes.
And both Kens. Okay. I'll go ahead and read the notice. Please take notice that an application was received from Edward and Jacqueline Gosling for a variance request in Crooked Creek Township. They're seeking a variance to reduce setback requirements from a side yard in an ag district to place an accessory structure. The hearing on this application will be held at 6:30 on November 19th. Due to the health pandemic, the hearing will be held in a hybrid format with in-person and virtual options pursuant to Minnesota statutes. The in-person options are in the commissioner's room. The virtual options utilize the Zoom platform. Anyone wishing to attend remotely may do so. All persons having an interest in the matter were given the opportunity to submit comments relative to the granting or denying of the application. The comments needed to be received by the zoning office by November 10th. Comments that were received were made part of your packets and will be read into the record. And this was advertised on November 4th.
So, applicants, any comments from you, please?
We hope you approve our application. I think you have all the info.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
But
It's a
we're
tiny
at-
piece of property, and we're trying to avoid, it's a tiny piece of pie-shaped property with one tiny building in the middle, and we're trying to avoid having anything else in the middle of the field.
Yeah, and as the application says, we've had it for a long time and really enjoy the fact that it's just this simple old one-room schoolhouse building. And, but we've reached a point where we need to have a shed of some kind to put the lawnmower in and stuff. And we have always had one of the neighbors who's got tractors seed it with alfalfa and make it so that we can mow it. And where the setback would go would mean that it just would be harder to mow. And I don't know if I need to go through what's in the application, but all that stuff's in there. So we're trying to make it so that the shed is near the fence on the north side so that it's still easy to mow, and we can plant something around the shed so that it doesn't really show, and instead everybody can still drive by and we can still enjoy it. It's just the old one-room schoolhouse sitting in the middle of the field. That's the plan.
Questions from any board members?
Looking at your first two proposals, it states on the property line, and how far from the property line are you actually talking about building?
We put it as close as you let us.
I mean, I think they should be about, 6 feet, just so we can get back there and mow.
Yeah,
Well, I guess that was my concern.
Yeah.
You should assume there's a fence there and on the property line, and that you still have room to get back there to mow.
Yeah,
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly. Certainly not on the line, whatever the closest you'll let us be.
so I don't know if you can see in the little Google picture that we do have a chemical outhouse there, which is also set off the line, probably about 4 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it on the other side of the property line? What is it? Is there any structure? What is there?
It's a meadow, and at the corner of our property, there's the gate to the Door Forest. So people that buy the firewood collection rights come there with a key and open that gate, and what they do is they mass, or when they log, they mass the wood in that meadow, and then they can come and pick it up.
What is masking? I don't know what that is.
Oh, they can stack the
Yeah,
logs.
when they've logged that, they just
Yeah.
pile up the 8-foot trunks there. Who's
Okay.
ever doing that goes
But
through.
there's no structure or anything that's going to be close by.
No,
No,
Yep, that was what I was interested in.
no.
If I followed right, the adjacent property is all owned by the state of Minnesota.
correct. It's a triangle, so it's bordered by the state on 2 sides and the road on the 3rd.
You mentioned 3 alternatives. Can you explain the difference between them?
One is right by where we drive in and park.
That's alternative 1,
Yeah.
And the second one,
the preferred alternative.
right. The second is further down the fence line.
Where the flags are, is that alternative 1?
Where the
Correct.
flags are is alternative 1,
Yeah.
Yep.
And then alternative 2 is further down the fence line. What about alternative 3?
Alternative 3 is actually on the eastern border, so the opposite fence line after it turns.
But still adjacent to the state forest.
So that's actually adjacent to the forested part of the state property. There is a path runs along both fence lines on the state side.
Okay.
Location 1.
So I got a question for you. Why did you have 3 options? Was there a reason why you had 3 options? Did you think that the first option was going to be denied, or what was the reason for the 3 options?
Because we really don't want to have the shed in the middle of the field.
I guess I didn't really know how to judge what your criteria would be for approving or not approving. So the property has an indent from when the road used to run there. The road used to have a right angle around the schoolhouse. There's one big tree, a big jack pine that was planted by a teacher 90 years ago. And the road used to pass on the other side of the jack pine and make a right angle. And the county, this tiny piece of pie-shaped property exists because the county wanted to soften that curve. And so there actually is a dip in the property, and option 3 is at that lower level. And it's the one that we prefer the least because we'd have to actually drive across the hayfield to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the easiest answer to your question is, like, we really don't want to have to put it in the middle of where we mow and in the middle of the field. And so we presented options that would make it so it was on the fence line, but we definitely want option 1.
You want option 1? That was my question.
My bigger question, is the property line fenced is between the state and your property? There is a fence there already.
No,
Okay.
barbed wire fence there.
That's all I really needed to know.
I'm sorry. The north line, it looks like where you're proposing it, is on both the parcel line as we show it, as well as the fence line. When I looked at your legal doesn't, it's not a meets and bounds. It doesn't call out distances. It calls out the public land survey lines. So I think for option 1 and 2, it wouldn't make any difference. But if the board started to look at option 3, I believe if you're looking on page 23 of your staff reports, the blue line would actually be the property line and not the green line on the fence, because that's the public land survey line, and that's the line that your description uses.
Oh, I see, okay, yep.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but like we said, I mean, if you can approve one, that's really all we want.
And if I can make one other comment, the zoning office very much appreciated your application. It was quite thorough, very well put together. So,
Thank you.
we don't commonly get folks laying out multiple options for us, but for all your options, you provided a lot of, showing the setbacks and very, very well put together map. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That would be my detail-oriented wife.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions or comments from the public?
You did not receive any comments ahead of your packets going out, nor have we since.
And there were no comments or questions from the DNR in terms of the hardwood forest?
No.
Okay. Being no other comments or questions from the public, I'm going to close the portion of the public hearing portion of the meeting and ask if there are any additional questions or discussion from our board. I don't know if anybody was out there. I was out there. I saw the flags. Option 1 really is indistinguishable from option 2, other than the fact that option 2 moves it down the fence line somewhat. So from my perspective, either one of those are acceptable to me, and there's really not a distinctive difference between option 1 and option 2, just for information for those folks that haven't been there. Any other questions or comments from our board? I guess we can move on to the findings of fact.
Okay, I will read each finding. I will read a staff analysis. I'll ask for a yes or no vote from each member and a reason for that vote. If you agree with the staff analysis, you can simply say as much. If you agree with one of your colleagues' reasoning, you can simply say as much. Number 1, the variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of official controls. The analysis is that the comprehensive land use plan has a policy encouraging the rehabilitation of existing older homes. The applicants cite historic preservation among their goals for the property. Ken Anderson.
I agree with staff analysis.
Larry Hafner.
I agree with staff analysis.
Franklin Hahn.
I agree.
And Ken Visker.
I think it's wonderful that you're preserving that old school house. And so I certainly agree.
Number 2, that there are practical difficulties in complying with the official controls and the proposed use of the property is reasonable. Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. The applicants indicate they wish to place a building along the periphery of the property for 2 reasons. First, to maintain the existing hayfield as intact as possible, and secondly, to preserve the traditional standalone appearance of the schoolhouse. The board may find that the comparatively small area of the property, along with its triangular shape, create a practical difficulty for the applicants in light of the above goals, that their goals are reasonable, and that the request is not driven solely by economic considerations. Larry Hafner.
I agree.
Franklin Hahn.
I agree with staff analysis.
Ken Visker.
Answer me. I agree.
And Ken Anderson.
I agree.
Number 3, the variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property and not created by the property owner. A unique feature of the property is the existing schoolhouse, which predates zoning. The location of the schoolhouse and the property lines were not determined by the applicants. While subjective, their desire to maintain the layout of the homestead in a way they feel is historically accurate arguably bolsters the aesthetics of the county, while objectively enabling the neighboring farmer to continue to work the remaining area in an efficient way. Franklin Hahn.
I agree.
Ken Visker.
I agree.
Ken Anderson.
I agree with staff analysis.
And Larry Hafner.
I agree with staff analysis.
Number 4, the variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty is sought. Because of the small area, any placement of a building 50 feet from a property line is not compatible with the applicant's stated objectives. The board may find that these objectives are reasonable, and if so, consider what the minimum amount of variance needed to accommodate these objectives is. So at this state, I guess we should clarify when members are going through these criteria, are we having a specific option, for instance, option 1, option 2, or option 3 in mind? And if so, perhaps we should touch on that when we create our findings.
I guess the other question is, I'm trying to find in here what the variance would be. State?
They have stated that they would like as large of a variance as you will give them. So this requirement here would require the board to give the minimum variance needed to accommodate a reasonable use.
What is the normal setback? Is it 50 feet?
Correct.
So if we wanted to have at least a 5-foot variance there, we'd have to have a variance of 45 feet.
That would
Am
be
I right?
Yes.
I guess to me, that's a reasonable, at least maintain at least 5 feet.
That works for me.
I don't think they're pushing that for any more than, any less than that, a distance apart from the fence anyway.
No, that works for me. Well said.
Okay, so when I ask for your votes on this, have in mind that we're considering a 45-foot variance from the north line.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
And do we need to specify one or two?
Well, that would be helpful, yes.
I would be in favor of going with their number 1 choice.
I'm fine with that one.
When we get done here, wouldn't we make a motion on what option we're going to give them a variance?
That's probably the appropriate time.
Well, right.
Okay, so have in your mind, you could have either option in your mind here, but you need to determine whether or not it's the minimum that is required to alleviate the practical difficulty. Ken Visker.
Agree.
Okay, Ken Anderson.
I agree with, I'd like to see a minimum of 5 feet from the property line. But I think that's the minimum they would be asking for.
Larry Hafner.
I agree.
And Franklin Hahn.
I agree.
Number 5, the variance will not alter the essential character of the locality nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, or welfare in the vicinity. Pole sheds are commonly found throughout the ag district in the county, and no impact is anticipated. Ken Anderson.
I agree with staff analysis.
Larry?
I agree with staff analysis.
Franklin?
I agree.
Ken Visker.
I agree.
And finally, the request is not a use variance and shall not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. The analysis is that the property is not located within a floodplain, and the proposal is not known to be afoul of any applicable state laws. Larry?
I agree.
Franklin?
I agree with staff analysis.
Ken Visker?
I agree.
Ken Anderson?
I agree with staff analysis.
Okay, you've created findings in support of an ultimate decision. At this juncture, I would recommend that you seek a motion to adopt the findings that you've just created.
I'll make that motion.
Excuse me, I'll second it.
A motion and a second to adopt the findings of fact. Roll call.
Okay, Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry Hafner,
I agree.
Franklin Hahn,
Aye.
Ken Visker.
Aye.
Okay, at this point, you could consider a motion to grant or deny a variance, and in doing so, we should specify, which option you are making that motion for, and the distance of the variance or the amount of variance that you are motioning.
Yes.
I'd make a motion that we grant option 1 and give them a 45-foot variance so they stay 5 feet from the property line.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, roll call.
Ken Anderson,
Aye.
Larry Hafner,
Aye.
Franklin Hahn,
Aye.
Ken Visker.
Motion carries. You have variance.
Applicant, I'll be in touch with you about the next steps in your project there, and also about how we can make sure that we have a good handle on where that property line is, because we're so close.
Okay, thank you very much for your consideration.
Thanks for your help.
Well done.
Good night.
Okay, I don't think there's any other business for us. Is there, Aaron?
There is none.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you all.
I so move.
I will second it. This is
We
Larry.
have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Say aye.
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 We're gone. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you all.